So here I am at Picton Castle in Wales, in Pembrokeshire, and I'm hoping that I'm going to find some otters.
Do we know where this otter just stay in?
Yeah, it's well known.
Well, I think my dog Asher is following the scent of an otter. Keep smelling, dog. Oh, let's run. I can't see any otters hiding in those logs, can you? Or hiding in those bushes and trees. But what I can see is a sign about badgers. Oh yes, and there's some information about otters too. Oh, what's that? In that pond? Yes, it's an otter. Wow, we found an otter. Look, you can see it sniffing and climbing up onto the bank. Oh look, there it goes. What's it doing? Oh, yeah, it's looking up. I think the otter wants something, don't you? Isn't the otter beautiful? Look at its lovely silky fur and those long whiskers and big eyes and shiny nose. It's got very small ears. Do you know what I think we need? We need somebody who can really tell us all about otters. I don't know much about them, do you?
Telling you a little bit about Freddie here. He's our Eurasian otter and he's around 4 years old. Those otters only live about 15 to 20 in captivity. It is quite typical with otters that even though the males are larger, it is usually the females that are the more dominant ones. So we're quite happy to leave him in here by himself at the minute. He actually comes out for displays like this and seems a lot more happy and content. If we were to get offered a female otter in future though, we'd have no issue with saying yes. So there are 13 different species of otter in the world. The largest is the Amazon river otter. They can grow up to about 6 foot long and weigh the same as a 10-year-old child. The smallest type of otter though is probably one you're a lot more familiar with, and that's the Asian short-clawed otter. They make really popular display otters in zoos, simply because they're diurnal, so they're out in the daytime, but they're also social, so they live in large groups. Now unfortunately for Freddie here, he is not only nocturnal, so this is the only time of day you will see him, but he is also solitary. It makes him an absolutely rubbish display otter, but so long as you're here at 12, you do get the chance to see that cute face of his. So Eurasian otters are found all across Europe and Asia. You'll find them as far as Thailand, Sri Lanka, up to Russia and down to North Africa. They are the only otters though native to the British Isles, and there is believed to be around 10,000 of them in the UK at the minute. And in the wild, a male otter like Freddie would have an area of about 20 to 40 kilometres, and he would be the only male in this area. He would, however, share it with about 3 to 5 females, but all he would do is go around and mate with them, because as soon as the female gets pregnant, she tells him to go away. And this is simply because, like most men, male otters are incredibly greedy, and they would eat the entire food supply for her and her kids, so it's really not something she can afford to hang about. It does mean the female raises them completely on her own. They have around 9 weeks gestation, and 9 to 12 weeks after that is when they learn how to swim. It is around 18 months to 2 years old that they're classed as fully grown, and at this point the young males do have to leave the area, simply because it would cause way too much competition with their dad if they were to stick around. So it is quite often a young male otter you'll find in your back gardens, on roads or railways, simply looking for a new safe place to live. The females though can stick around as they don't cause any issues or competition. They do have very broad but short and powerful jaws. It is really not something you want round your feet. Fortunately though, my ankles have been safe from his teeth so far. You might have also noticed by now that Freddie is not the most graceful of all otters. He kind of splashes into the pond with all 4 paws out, doing a massive belly flop. Some things notice about Freddy, particularly when he's under the water, is that trail of bubbles rising up. This is not him breathing, he's got 2 layers of coats there. So he's got a thick waterproof outer layer which is incredibly oily, and then a very thick underlayer which keeps him warm, and basically these just compress together under the water and cause that bubble effect. You'll also notice his eyes are placed on the top of his head there, and he has valves in his ears and nose to keep the water out. He can see just as clearly underwater as he can on land. Even when it's murky, he just uses his long whiskers to detect the vibrations under the water. He does have 2 types of swimming methods. I cannot guarantee you'll see the more active one out of him. Something he's doing just now is his doggy paddle. So he uses his webbed feet and thick tail, which acts as a rudder there to steer his way through the water. On a really good day though, Freddy will do something called porpoising, which is where he basically dives in and out of the water the same way a dolphin would. It is a much quicker method of swimming, but Freddy can only do it when he can be bothered. Good boy. We do often get asked how long an otter holds his breath for. You might have noticed by now he's not really under the water for very long. In actual fact, they'll only pop under for about 10 to 30 seconds at a time, and this is just because it's not convenient for them to be under that long. They can actually hold it, it's believed to be around 4 to 5 minutes, but they'll never really do it in the water, especially if they're foraging, as they just need to pop under, grab what they want and come back up. An otter though will spend about 4 to 6 hours in a day in foraging in total, so it really does add up in the end. So Freddy gets quite a lot to eat on a daily basis. He is getting 15 chicks for lunchtime now. He'll probably get a couple of fish for tea, rabbit, pork, beef, you name it. He eats about 1 kilogram of meat a day, which sounds like a lot, but it's what you'd expect from an otter his size. He's probably about 3 foot long and weighs roughly 15 to 16 kilos. However, it is just all muscle. So these otters were incredibly endangered in the UK across the 1900s. In the early 1900s, it was their lovely coats there that were poached for. Fortunately, that is illegal now. But then across the 1900s, they were hit really hard with pollution, in particular water pollution. And when fish populations started to drop in freshwater river systems, these guys had to adapt and become opportunistic hunters. So people do often think an otter only has a fish-based diet. In actual fact, they will catch and kill whatever they can get their hands on. Whether it's any small mammals, rodents, mink, anything like that, an otter will happily eat. And it is just as likely to be one of these guys in your chicken coop as it is a fox. Fortunately, in the 80s and 90s though, they were brought back using reintroduction projects to the point where it's actually now illegal to release a captive otter back into the wild. The last release was around 1999, I believe, and the highest population of otters is actually in Shetland. They have about 12% of all UK otters. We did used to have a night vision camera up on this tree though, and we were able to see he is literally out all hours of the night playing. Again, it's just because he's nocturnal that you don't really see him in the day. And thank you for listening, and do enjoy the rest of your day here.
Wow, wasn't that an interesting talk by the zookeeper? She knew so much information. I think it'd be great if we could find out more about otters too. Just look at the way Freddy jumps in and out of the water and swims around. Much better swimmer than me or my dog Asher. Isn't he amazing? In the Bible it says God gave Solomon wisdom. Solomon was a king and he asked God for wisdom. It also says he spoke about animals and birds, reptiles and fish. But it wasn't just knowledge that Solomon had. He had wisdom. He was wise. He could give advice. He made good choices. I was really impressed with everything that the zookeeper had to say. She learnt so much. She knew so much about the otters and about how to look after them. And you might know much about your cat or your dog or another pet. Or you might just look after our environment by not dropping litter or by recycling or reducing what you need to use or thinking about how to use things in a sensible way. And we can do the same, can't we? We can look after the environment around us. Oh, just look at Freddie. He's really enjoying his food, isn't he? He definitely is. So whilst we're watching Freddie the otter play and swim, why don't you join me in a prayer? Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the animals in our world. Lord, help us to learn about them and to care for them, to study them and undertake research. Help us to look after our world and the environment. Lord, give us wisdom like you gave Solomon, not just knowledge, but how to be wise, how to love other people, how to love you, and how to love our world and all the creatures in it. So Lord, help us this day to be wise scientists, wise learners who care for all the animals in the world. Amen. Why don't you say to someone near you, how are you going to look after our environment? How are you going to look after animals that you might come across?
What one? Should we go and look at the birds?
Bye, Freddie.
I'll teach you free and all that. 16 pounds of food a day.
And that's it. Good night, Freddie.